then as I pushed him away, he comes back and then flicks my, you know what? I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but hey guys, if you want to hear my crazy homosexual stories and experiences, then stay tuned. So it's 3 instances that I had with homosexuals here in America. And the first one started when I was doing my business, being a sole proprietor, pretty much is photography. And I had a client that booked me for a birthday party, and it was for about 2 to 3 hours. Now, once I arrived on the location, I did not know what location I was going or what location it was that they wanted the party to be done. I just went there and showed up when I was needed. So I showed up to the location, and towards the first hour, I realized that this is all gay kind of restaurant, club, bar, right, you can say, because there were only gay men and some women who like were accompanied, but whatever, right? And as I'm doing my job, towards the first hour, I decided to take a break, and it was right next to a group of guys. And one of those guys, I guess they had their balls big enough to approach me and start flirting with me. And, you know, I professionally, of course, shut them down, rejected them, right? In a way where I told them that I'm not homosexual, I'm straight. But then it got crazy when he goes, "What do you want to do after here?" and touched my hand. Then right there, I told him, "I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to remove myself because you're not getting the message." It's like when these men get a few drinks in, it's like the morality just kind of goes outside the door. And that was my first instance. I mean, I can't really describe it enough because that is like the oldest one of all. And then the second one happened on a property that I was working on, working surveillance. And a resident who was a pretty, from outside you would say he's a pretty cool guy, very genuine, very like down to earth kind of guy. He was like on his 60s, I can tell you that. And he goes, because I would see him pretty much every single morning, he will wake up to go and do his walks, his run, like towards the beach, because I would be working right next to the beach. And one day, you know, after us talking, he decided to tell me a little bit of his background, how he had a wife in South America. And then it made me comfortable enough to share with him my life, that I have a wife and 2 boys. And there was just something about him, right, that it did not give me any impression that he was like homosexual or bisexual or you name it, right? And as we pretty much were talking, he ended up telling me that he had another business trip coming, that he had to go on South America, which he, you know, I didn't know if that was, no, that was true, because he did go on that trip for like a week or 2 weeks. I don't really care. But anyways, he goes and shares with me that he would like to have a massage, but he wants a good masseuse because he went to like different places, and with those places, you know, he has been like disappointed. Well, I offered myself because I'm a businessman, right? I'm a hustler, and I told him that I'm really good at massage because I know I am, and that I would do it for a certain price. And he agreed, and yeah, we agreed to do the session. And when the day came and I went up to his unit and I arrived in his apartment, he still did not give me any kind of homosexual vibe until we went to the room. And then he asked me, "Are you okay with me being naked?" I told him that's perfectly fine. It's not the first time that I've been around naked men, aka the locker room, sports, all of that stuff, right? And fast forward, then he asked me, this is where it started to kind of like, the temperature started to change, right? He goes, "Are you gonna get naked?" I told him, "No, I think I'm okay with what I'm wearing." And it was like a sports attire, just kind of like ready to just get to business, and that's it. So it was like it was an hour session, right? And I remember starting from the lower body. They're there like 25 minutes, And then when I made my way to the upper body, he then said, I started doing his shoulder. And because I was closer to like his hands reach, he started kind of like brushing his hand like close to my thigh. And that's when I started saying, you know what, this is getting a little bit uncomfortable for me, and I can't tolerate it. So I then took my space and just started kind of like doing my own thing, but not in a way where his hands are still in reach. And then once I finished, this is where it got crazy, because he then asked me, do you do erotic massage? That's when I kind of like, I said, damn, like I felt disrespected. Like, wow, how is it that you're not going to respect my sexuality as a straight male, but yeah, you want to ask me that kind of question? And that's kind of like when it kind of like shut me down, and like it kind of like was a deal breaker. And then of course I answered him professionally, and and just made my way out. But I was disappointed, because what would you ask me, like those things, like you're supposed to be able to read someone from the outside. But yeah, and the crazy part is that same guy, probably like 2 days later, he ended up having a guy kind of like around my same age, same height, same skin texture, come to his unit. The kid met him down the lower garage, because I guess he did not want him being seen on the upper garage. And then they made their way up, and then after like about an hour, he came down. Man, I was just looking at them like, wow, this guy is crazy. Like, you can tell he has a fetish for younger boys that are black or something like that. It was just very disturbing to see, and I could feel nothing but sorry for the guy that allowed himself to be put through that situation. But anyways, certain people, they have some crazy fetishes, especially men. And moving forward, the last one, which is actually the worst of all, was I'm working on my shift, and as I'm doing my surveillance, I noticed two I won't say couples, maybe friends, two guy friends, making their way down to the lower garage. And once they got to the lower garage, they realized that they missed the lobby. And then they called me, and then once they called me, they were asking for like directions. So I told them that I will come and get them, since the only way to get the elevator again is through the key. I ended up making my way down in a way where I would know that we will intersect. And once I made my way down, I called for their attention, and one of them, I guess the most feminine of them, came sprinting, and then he like launched himself like into me, and then placed his hand on my chest. Right there, it was already like just kind of like breaking like a deal breaker for me, because it was like an invasion of like distance and and privacy, I guess, because he had already gotten physical. So that had already made me feel uncomfortable from the get-go. And this is a homosexual, like a Hispanic Latino homosexual. And as we're making our way to the lobby, and we're like walking down the lobby, he comes to me, and then he grabs my cheeks and tells me, "You're so attractive." Now, unfortunately, the cameras were not showing kind of like that direction. When he did that, it was, right there, I respectfully just pushed him away in a way that I said, it has to be either the drinks or just whatever, right? Just any excuse to just get him out of property. And then as I pushed him away, he comes back and then flicks my, I don't want to get in trouble with YouTube, but let's say my trumpet, right? And right there, I told him, you need to get out of here now, because my attitude and energy had become a little bit more aggressive. And once I told him that, I saw his eyes kind of like die off from like the rejection. But then within a second, it like lit back up as if he did not get the message. So then right there, I told his friend, you need to get your friend out of here before we have a huge problem. And I understand some of you guys might say, oh, you should have punched him. That was very disrespectful, whatever, a lot of, well, guess what? In my mind, the only thing that I'm thinking about is not putting my employment at risk or my finances, because I was really tough on money at that time, and I just needed to support my family. And yeah, it's just, it was such a horrible experience that I had that, I just kept it to myself. I shared it with, of course, with my wife, and then we had crazy sex. And then I shared it with like a coworker, but the fact that I'm sharing it with you guys is therapeutic, and it kind of like removes that experience from my head, and it doesn't give it power, because I no longer the only one that has it in them, so it can't hunt me, right? It cannot hunt me anymore. And yeah, that's the uncomfortable experiences that I've had with LGBT people, and it's very unfortunate. I consider myself a lion, and what does it look like a cheetah trying to get at me? It makes no sense when I know I can just snap them in half. So we'll see how this journey continues unfolding, and how I continue growing around these kinds of people. But yeah, that's all I wanted to share with you guys. Take care and stay safe.